Peterson climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Come
on! I do not know what happened, but I think we're live. So I don't know if you guys had issues on your end, but maybe it was my computer. I have no idea, but we're live talking about today's MLB slate. We got the Swing for the Fences show. We're here with JT Hayes. We're here with Draft Cheat DC talking about this slate. And it's not a huge slate today, right? Nice little 7-gamer. So it gives us enough time to really dive deep in, get some good pitching breakdowns. We got some of the best in the business to do it for you. We got JT Hayes. We got DC. JT, I'll go to you first. How's your day going? Any beautiful skies you've seen lately? And how pumped are you for this 7-game slate?
Kind of a cloudy sky here in the Atlanta area, so nothing too exciting to look at, nothing too exciting to post about. I didn't even take any sky pictures today, sweet Travis. So, but tomorrow I'm back on a plane, so I probably will get some nice sky pictures tomorrow. Definitely will get some on Thursday and Friday because I'll be going from DC to Fort Lauderdale or Miami and then Fort Lauderdale and then back to Atlanta. But wow, that was an awesome kind of hype video. I wasn't expecting it. Very nice. A couple of highlights interspersed in there. So pretty good for a Monday.
Yeah, I don't have it on my end, but when the highlights were going on, my computer stopped working. So I don't know if we had an awkward pause to start the show. If so, that's I guess it's on me. And I definitely need an upgrade to the computer soon. So that's on the list of things to do. DC, I'll head on over to you next. Got a nice little 7-game slate. It's been raining a bunch out here, so I assume you've been diving into all the pitching metrics and all the different stacks today rather than going outside for a run. So how is the day going, and how are you feeling about this slate?
I did brave the rain, got out on the bicycle. Not many people out there today, but hey, that's all right. And yeah, kind of gloomy weather. Been crazy. We're in mid-June here in Colorado. We're used to just like bright sunny skies every day, but it hasn't happened so far yet this year. I'm sure it'll be coming soon. And you guys need to start working more. You haven't seen the new highlight video yet? Man, I feel like it's been here for ages. So you guys got to get on some more shows. But as usual, like you mentioned, Mangone, a smaller slate here on Monday, like usual. 7 games, though, so plenty of teams, players, pitchers to choose from. And you're right, shorter slates like this, you can dive in a little bit more of a deep dive on all the pitchers and the individual hitters. Try to, catch up over the weekend, news and notes, and try to hopefully pick some winners for the people today.
Yeah, I mean, JT, if you were watching the show with me and DC, Holden watched the highlight video once, and he said, "That's so cool, we're going to do it again," and made us all watch it twice. So luckily, I'm not Holden, and I'm not going to force that upon you. So, and also that makes DC a little bit happier today. So if you guys could please hit that like, subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton over here at Run Pure Sports. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. Also, if you haven't signed up yet, use that code SUMMER33. Get you 33% off if you're looking for the content. Listen, we revamped some of our MMA content. Had some pretty nice hits this weekend. It was pretty awesome to see. I know Big T's core absolutely crushed in the MMA streets. We had Trevor Bryan, our guy. He hit about $10,000 over in the MLB streets. I think on Friday there was like a $50K shipper. So we had a lot going on, a lot of winners, and hey, we're not done. We got MLB, we got NBA tonight, which hey, I'm excited for the NBA showdown because I went to Chili's last Friday with everyone on FanDuel, so I got to be a part of that little shipper. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm pumped for the NBA games. And I guess before we dive in, DC, do you think the series gets closed out tonight? And are we heading to the Denver Nuggets parade this week?
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if Denver doesn't close it out now. It seems like, I mean, again, we've counted Miami out so many times during the playoffs that you don't want to completely write them off. But I do think Denver does get the job done tonight. And yeah, maybe a parade. I've never been to a championship parade. I guess no surprise, spending most of my my life growing up in Minneapolis, who hasn't won a championship in like 30 years. So yeah, maybe I'll hit the parade. That'll be a good time for sure. And definitely looking forward to Showdown. Obviously, tons of winners over the course of the playoffs here at RPS with the NBA Showdown. So excited for that. And U.S. Open, right, coming up on Thursday as well for the Golf Street. So, yeah, pretty fun week of sports content here. Of course, as always, headlined by baseball, most important sport there is.
Yeah, JT, someone who's an Atlanta Braves season ticket holder. Maybe you've attended a parade or two recently. So have you ever attended a team parade after a finals or championship victory? And should me and DC attend the Nuggets parade?
So I've attended an event one time. It was the Yankees World Series in 2009 because I got VIP tickets right next to the stage at City Hall. So I didn't attend the parade. I didn't attend the parade when the Braves won here. That's just kind of not my thing. That's, you were saying over the weekend that you're not a really big team sports fan and some guys were giving you a hard time, but I can understand where you're coming from. No, I don't want to be surrounded by all those fish who are excited for people that they don't know. I want to, if you guys win a lot of money on Showdown, I think then yes, you should absolutely consider doing something that maybe is a parade for yourselves or something like that. And then just to add on to what DC was saying, I didn't get a chance to play it myself because I was so focused on baseball and I had a dinner on Saturday night, but apparently the MMA winners were all in Discord on Saturday night for MMA as well. So every sport, all sports, one price. It's been absolutely amazing, but no, we are not going to be going to any parades.
I got to say, the parade seems like something that was feels like a good idea at the time to go to. And I feel like I would regret it within minutes of arriving at said parade. So yeah,
I set the line, DC, at 10 minutes. I'd over under. I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to leave. You know what I mean?
The only way it's somewhat enjoyable is if you just get totally hammered, right? Which everybody else will be, because you can't be there sober when everybody else is just absolutely obliterated. So
right,
yeah, I don't know. Probably won't attend, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe the chat has some championship parade takes for us. They can tell us in the chat. But let's dive in. Let's talk about this MLB slate. It's not the best pitching slate, but I've seen worse. I'll at least say that. I guess we'll kick it off with the top options. I think Miller is the top option when it comes to salary, right? Just salary. Now, I'm not saying that's the best one on the entire slate. We also have Paxton, right? Or sorry, it's Eflin. Eflin's at the top, then it's Logan Webb, then it's Bryce Miller. Those are three guys above 10K. Eflin is kind of intriguing. I think he will have lower ownership than some of these other guys that we'll get to and talk about, but he gets to go up against the Oakland A's. You get Logan Webb, which he's typically a talented pitcher, can get through things, but he is going against this Cardinals team that they have a lot of righties. And the question with the Cardinals is, can they at least get hits, right? Because when the Cardinals are hitting the bats, they're flying, but they can swing and miss. So there is some upside with Logan Webb. Bryce Miller has definitely had some struggles. He gets Miami, though, so obviously an encouraging spot for him. But the two guys to really talk about that we're going to dive into next are Luzardo and Paxton. I think they are the two guys that are going to gain the most ownership here on this slate. Luzardo gets a matchup against this Seattle team, and Seattle is kind of like the New York Yankees, where, yeah, they can hit home runs, or they can strike out in bunches. It's in a pretty good ballpark right in Seattle. So the upside for Luzardo here is pretty strong. And then Paxton, he gets a great matchup too, right? Colorado, you get them on the road. Yes, this game is in Boston, and Boston is a better hitting environment, but not better than Coors. And Paxton, he's a lefty going against this team that has struggled against lefties, right? So this is a spot where I think a lot of chalk is going to condense on Paxton. And we've seen some slates recently. We saw Ohtani have his struggles. We saw Gaussman struggle the other day. We've seen a lot of chalk at the pitcher position bust. And I've definitely been trying to think of how can I not play as much of these chalky pitchers, but on the flip side, some of these other options are brutal to roster, right? It drops off really quick. So DC, let's go to you first. Paxton, Luzardo, that seems like the first talking point, because I think they're going to be the chalk, followed by Eflin, and then there's the other two options in Webb and Miller. How are you kind of deciphering between these options and their ownership on a 7-game slate?
Yeah, so kind of unfortunately, my favorite slates, I think the ones that are most fun to play are when, I have a pitcher that I think is undervalued that other people aren't playing, whether that's price, whether it's ownership, right? Anytime you have an angle, an edge, whatever you want to call it, that you think other people aren't on, that's kind of what we're looking for in DFS in general anyway, gambling in general. This particular slate, I couldn't really find much to play, a pitcher at least, that other people aren't going to. So I listed 5 in my player pool, but it's mostly a kind of a 3-pitcher slate for me. Paxton, Luzardo, Eflin, those same three guys you talked about, Mangone, I do think are the best plays on this slate. Paxton, since, returning from multi-year injury, kind of had my doubts he'd be able to get the job done. But outside of a blip against the Angels, who do hit lefties well, he's been really, really good. 4 of the 5 starts he's made, over 20 fantasy points. I think he passes the eye test. I think he looks great. Again, I don't expect it to last, frankly, too much longer. I think something was probably going to happen to his arm. But, you're not going to really predict that to happen during a start, I don't think. So, yeah, I think Paxton, really good option. I think Luzardo's right there with him. I've long been a Luzardo fan. I know, a lot of RPS guys are. I know Steve's a huge fan of Luzardo. We don't get to play him that often because Miami often has those 25-minute early starts over on the East Coast. And so Luzardo is off a lot of the main slates, but we do get a chance, obviously, to play him here. He goes to Seattle, who do have right-handed power, which I think is Luzardo's biggest weakness, but it's also a really good strikeout park. There's a ton of swing and miss in that Seattle team. I do think both Paxton and Luzardo probably rack up the strikeouts here, frankly. And then Eflin, who is really expensive, right? $11K Zach Eflin. I mean, I was on this guy from the very beginning of this year, but I didn't think we'd see $11K Zach Eflin at any point. I'll say that much. So he has been outstanding for the Rays. I think he's super safe in this matchup in Oakland. He's one of the premier strike throwers in baseball. He just absolutely pounds the strike zone. Against Oakland in that park, you're probably going to be just fine, right? Because you're not going to kill yourself by walking guys, by falling behind counts. It's just not really an Eflin's game. I think he can attack confidently here. I expect him to pitch well. It's just $11K is a big price tag. So I do have him third once you factor in the price. But I am seeing him maybe at half of the ownership of Paxton, which I think is somewhat of an interesting angle there. So, yeah, like I said, I do think these are going to be the 3 highest owned pitchers. I do like all 3. And you got to take what the slate gives you to some extent. Would I recommend or use a cheaper, lower owned pitcher? It's because I generally believe in that pitcher or think you need to do it for the slate. Personally, this slate, I don't really see that need. So I do like those guys 3 up top the best. I included Logan Webb in my 5. And then if I need a cheap guy, I haven't built all my lineups yet. Matthew Liberatore. I'm not super confident in him or anything, but he is 6,400. He is my favorite of the cheap options and one of the guys that I'm at least willing to consider down there for cheap. So, yeah, that's pitching for me. Again, nothing crazy outside of what the field is doing for me personally tonight. But yeah, Paxton, Luzardo, Eflin, those 3 guys up top. I think you can mix and match them any which way you like, frankly. And those are the 3 guys that'll be on the majority of my lineups.
Yeah, and if you want to find out any of DC's adjustments that he makes to his player pool, you can check it out over at Run Pure Sports. He's got his pool up along with his stacks, favorite one-offs, little slate strategy. So great piece of content over here at Run Pure. JT, let's go to you. But also our guy Kevin is in the chat, and he says he's catching up on the show. New Orleans Saints parade was insanely fun. I mean, I would argue there's a big difference between the city of Denver and New Orleans, right? New Orleans would probably be a good time no matter what, right, if you go down to the city. So what do you think of Kevin's comment? And then what do you think of this pitching slate?
Kevin strikes me as a guy that would like a good parade, right? He could get some popcorn, maybe a souvenir, sit back and watch and, cheer on the team. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I'm happy that he enjoyed the parade. I'm not as happy with DC's breakdown because I feel quite a bit differently on this slate. So most of these slates we've gotten kind of almost in agreement here, DC. But this one, I'm going a different path here. My top pitcher on the slate is Logan Webb. The San Francisco Giants are minus 135 favorite on the road. He's got the best odds on his strikeout prop, 5.5 over. Everyone, and I hear this in Discord a lot, oh, but he's been so good, or oh, but he's been terrible. And you want to play these guys when they're going to rebound, and you want to get off them when they're going to fall off. So I believe that coming off a pretty poor start in Colorado, where a lot of pitchers have poor starts, I think this is opportunity here for Logan Webb to get right. I think this is a good opportunity here. I agree with DC on Liberatore having some talent. Just hasn't really shown it outside of one game here against the Brewers in the big leagues. And there are strikeouts in this Giants lineup, but it's also a ton of right-handed power. Not necessarily advocating for a Giant stack here, because once Liberatore is out, you're probably going to see right-handers and the whole lineup will switch. But he's my number one guy. After him, it gets a little bit dicey. Love the talent of Jesus Luzardo. Do not love the fact that there is absolutely zero consistency start to start. He is coming off his absolute best start of the season, going on the road. And I think he's okay, but I'm probably going to be mostly off of him. I do like some of the right-handed power in the Seattle lineup, particularly Teoscar Hernandez. James Paxton at 50% ownership on a 7-game slate for a guy that's 6 starts in after being off and out of the major leagues for several years seems way, way, way too high. I do side on the side of Paxton over Luzardo here, but I don't know how much I'm going to have of him. Eflin always has had pretty significant home road splits. That's continued this season. All of his better starts are on the road. You're paying $11K for the only good thing I'll say about Eflin is he has been one of the Tampa Bay starters that has shown the ability, at least Kevin Cash has shown, that he'll leave him with a little bit of a longer leash. However, $11K for a pitcher like this, I think I'm going to minimize his usage. I think that Seattle and Miami game is a little bit interesting. I see it as a lower scoring game. I actually like Bryce Miller here because of the strikeouts in the Miami lineup, but I actually also like right-handed power for the Seattle Mariners. I like the outfield. I played the outfield yesterday. Soler, De La Cruz, Jesus Sanchez, who's been scuffling a little bit, but I like one-offs here in that game. But I do think that Bryce Miller turns this around a little bit and puts up a decent showing here. And then that Kansas City and Cincinnati game, I see that as being a 2-1 game. And I'm not afraid to play some Zach Greinke on a slate where I think the pitching scores are going to be a little bit lower and see if the Royals can't find a way to win this. And you get 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, maybe 1 earned run. I think that might be enough if he gets a win here. As far as Luke Weaver, he looks a little bit too popular for the name, but he'll probably be in my pool as well. So I'm going to be under on the heavily owned pitchers and overweight on some of these guys that I think are in really good spots that are due for rebounds.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be an interesting slate. And I'll admit, I'm definitely struggling with the idea of not getting off of some of these chalky pitchers, right? It just seems a little bit tough. But the Logan Webb call, it's definitely got me interested, JT. And one thing I'll notice, I do think Luzardo and Paxton will have a lot of ownership. And one thing I feel pretty confident about in DFS is when there's a range that gets really condensed on, the range above kind of becomes a dead zone, right? And I think the Logan Webb take that you had was a pretty good one. That's what I'm definitely going to reconsider a little bit. And I don't know, DC, are the Cardinals still on their really horrendous streak of never winning their first game of a series? Is that thing still alive?
I think they still have the worst record in the National League. If not, it's very close. They just haven't really turned it around. I still think this team will end up being a pretty good offense when it's all said and done. But yeah, right now I don't have a problem with Logan Webb. I did list him 4th, so it's not like I have any issue going there. To your earlier point, Mangone, I forgot to address it when I was talking about pitchers, but you're definitely right about a couple things. One, chalk pitching has busted more this year than in previous seasons of MLB DFS. I don't think there's any question about that. I think part of that's due to the new rules. It's just a more difficult, volatile pitching environment. So we've seen chalk bust more often. We've also seen, and I think this is even more true than that point, way fewer monster scores out of starting pitching. There really haven't been all that many. Now, part of that's been due to the decline of guys like Garrett Cole, Corbin Burns, no Jacob deGrom pitching this year outside of that first month. And just in general, it's pretty damn rare to get a 30-plus, especially 35-plus DraftKings score out of pitcher, which means, of course, right, if you combine those two factors, it hasn't changed the pricing on DraftKings. These top pitchers are still priced up the same as they were, and it hasn't changed ownership trends. If anything, people are more likely to try to, play the chalky guys who they, perceive of as safer than the rest. But when the top pitching scores on any given slate oftentimes don't even reach 30 fantasy points, I've said this for years, but more often than not, GPP winners aren't decided by pitcher. They're decided by getting the stacks and bats right. That's where the real upside is. So, again, I know it's, I feel like I'm kind of contradicting myself because I do like the chalky pitchers today in general. But I think as an overall point, I definitely think it's true and something to think about going forward.
Yeah. And I mean, one set of pitchers we haven't talked about yet. Can we at least mention, and I'm not saying I want to play him, but let's at least have the conversation. I think Livator's fine, but if you are just going to punt, like, could you get behind a Luke Weaver or a Zach Greinke, DC, like at all? Just as like the punt option attacking a bad offense, right? Like that's kind of the theory around it. You're punting to be able to get the bats if you want to get them today. Not saying you need to. And it's just, hey, you have two bad pitchers or at least one bad pitcher against a bad offense, right? You're kind of hoping that offense swings and miss. No one would be surprised if the Royals put up 0 runs today, and no one would be surprised the Reds put up 0 also, because yes, sure, they can have big games at times, but they could easily swing and miss with the best of them.
Yeah, I would be more interested in those two guys if they were a little bit cheaper, like $7,500 for Luke Weaver. Like, he's not even that cheap, and he's not even going to be that owned. I mean, I'm seeing him like 15 to 20% owned or something for a guy who I think is really like a borderline MLB pitcher at best, an SP5 at best. So I couldn't get there with Weaver. I get it with the matchup against Kansas City, who has been one of the worst offenses in general. No Vinny Pasquantino as well. Maybe probably their second best hitter, frankly, in that offense. Greinke, like the strikeout upside is just so low. What does he have? A season high of 6, season high of 21 fantasy points, which don't get me wrong. If I could lock in 6 strikeouts and 21 fantasy points, his literal season high for the year, I would absolutely play Zach Greinke, but he's also got plenty of games in the single digits. So I struggled to get to either of those two guys. Looked at Dane Dunning a little bit. He's been pretty damn good on the surface. Low ERA, whip. Hey, he has thrown over 90 pitches in 4 consecutive outings, so the Texas Rangers do trust him. But I just don't believe in the skills. I think there's massive regression coming for him based on the stats that he's put up so far. And I don't love the matchup against the Angels. I do think Dunning will come in 10 to 15% owned as well. So just one of those slates where, I looked at everybody. I really did, and tried to find some guys that I would, could get somewhat excited about or could play that were cheaper, that were going to be low owned, and frankly just couldn't come up with much.
I'll tell you, there's a baseball argument here from the game standpoint for playing Zach Greinke. And it's all these young kids on Cincinnati. And I'm pretty sure the last time these kids saw a 65, 68 mile an hour curveball was like sophomore year in high school. And this is Greinke's thing, man. He can throw these kids off. He can upset their timing. Wind's blowing in a little bit here in Kansas City. So you're only going to get 5 or 6 innings. But if we're right, and if there's some power in that Boston ballpark where we generally don't like playing pitchers, that's the other thing. You've got a pitcher in a ballpark that all season long, we've stacked both sides of this game, that's going to be 53% owned. That just seems to me is not right.
Yeah.
And then on the side in Seattle, where, look, Luzardo, great as he is, not a really long leash for any of these Marlins pitchers. So you get, a 17, 18, even 21-point performance out of these guys. What's the difference between your 16 or 17 points, which is the best case scenario for Greinke, and guys that are priced $4,000 more than him?
The difference is they're way more likely to get there than Greinke is, and they have more upside as well. I get it. I will say I'm looking forward to Greinke's approach to Elly De La Cruz. I think we're going to see some, as slow as Greinke can throw his curveball, 61 miles per hour. And I don't know, maybe Greinke will get decapitated by a 120 mile per hour line drive coming right back at him. But I am looking forward to Greinke against these youngsters.
You stack the Reds. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. We'll maybe we have different approaches here.
Well, I'll just say that the Reds is a mini stack. I don't think is crazy. Obviously, we'll get into the hitters shortly. We've talked about the pitchers enough. We got about an hour and 15 minutes till MLB lock. So, guys, please hit that like, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. We could easily, just head on over and head to the Discord, talk with the members, bring this thing premium. We don't want to do that. Speaking of premium, though, we do have the NBA show with JSU and Big T. That'll be coming up at around, I think, 7:15. I believe it's premium today. So yeah, be sure to check that out. They'll be breaking down the slate, going through their player pools. We also have the Saber Sim show where AP, Rubio, and Glock, they did it for free on this channel and talked about the NBA slate. So be sure to check out all that content over here at Run Pure Sports, especially if you're playing Showdown tonight. You don't want to miss out on that. Let's head on over and they'll talk about these bats and see what we can find, because it sounds like, since we don't love pitching, there could definitely be some good bats here on this slate. And let's go to the chalk to start it off, right? Starts first, Rockies and the Red Sox. And if you want a contrarian play, the Rockies will be contrarian, and they are leverage, right? They will be leverage off of Paxton. And we've seen Paxton have his blow-up spots. We've also seen him be lights out. And then on top of that, we got the Red Sox who, listen, Red Sox chalk doesn't sound that appealing, but they are pretty good when they're at home, and they're going against Mr. Seabold, and he is not a great pitcher. DC, is this good chalk that we should be eating on this slate, or should we be kind of foregoing it and looking at some other spots?
Yeah, I think you can go here. If you do, and you're also on the chalk pitchers, I would try to, maybe pick some really low-owned guys as your one-offs to go with it, to differentiate your lineup a little bit with, listen, if you're playing Luzardo, Paxton, and a Red Sox stack, like you're going to be competing with a lot of your very good friends atop the leaderboard, even if all three of those things worked out. So like I said, try to get as different as you can on your final roster spots. But yeah, great spot for the Red Sox here. I talk about it a lot on this show. I pretty much don't play all that Red Sox all that often when they're on the road. They're just a different team at Fenway. It's true every year. This has been especially true this year. And I think they'll get back to their hitting ways against the Rockies and Mr. Connor Seabold tonight. So yeah, I think I listed Red Sox as my second favorite stack. Hard not to like him here. I do expect him to do damage. Digging into Seabold a little bit, I wouldn't worry too much about the splits for Red Sox. I think you can play lefties, righties against Seabold. It shouldn't matter too much. Good matchup against the bullpen for the Red Sox. Pinch hit risks, Tristan Casas, I think, to some degree, and perhaps Jarren Duran at the top of the lineup as well. So, but yeah, I really do like this Red Sox team. Just make sure you get different somewhere if you're playing the chalk here.
Yeah, of course. There's definitely ways to make it different. Up and down throughout the lineup, right? 1 through 9. I wouldn't just be pounding down the 1 through 5, right? And then eating the pitchers and Luzardo and Paxton. That's definitely a losing strategy. If you decide to play Luzardo, Paxton, and the 1 through 5 from Boston, go find a nice charity to donate to instead. JT, I'll go over to you. Boston chalk. Is it worth eating this chalk here? How would you get different with it? And maybe you're on some Rockies for some leverage on a shorter slate. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm probably going to use Boston more as one-offs. Guys like Devers, even Adam Duvall, I think, is interesting today. But my main stacks are going to be different teams than Boston. It's tough to get to Colorado. But, again, if you want to take that shot, so here's a problem with a team like Colorado and stacking them against your 53% owned pitcher, right? Gausman busted yesterday, but the Twins were nowhere near the top of the leaderboards, right? So you don't necessarily have to play Rockies if you feel that Paxton, who's had 2 really good games in a row, is going to come out and maybe the curveball's not moving right. Maybe the slider feels differently. Maybe it's, a little bit humid up there. Who knows what's going on? And he just doesn't have his normal stuff. I'm still not necessarily interested in these Rockies more than a couple of one-offs, right? Randall Grichuk is a guy who I would consider, and Elias Diaz in the cleanup spot, I think, is another guy that I would consider. I will say the Boston bullpen is, not all that great. It's probably right about league average, maybe a little bit worse, but still, I'm not particularly excited. The total in that game actually has come down a little bit as well, so takes me a little bit off of going full bore here for some leverage.
Yeah, one strategy I'd like to do with some of the chalk stacks, like it's kind of like a rule of thumb that I've been messing with. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think it's an interesting strategy. Is if you just instantly X out the Boston Red Sox as a 5-man stack, but still play them as a 2 and 3-man stack, you are still going to have some pretty good teams that I think make a lot of sense. I'm not saying that I'm for sure doing that on this slate. I'm still kind of looking into it, but it's definitely something if you mess around with an optimizer, whenever I run my teams, I always at least look and see, what do these teams look like? Do I like them? Am I finding something better? So that's one way that I've been handling the chalk a little bit. And I feel like it's helped me out a ton. So just a strategy that you can try out if you would like. Let's move on over to the next game. We got the first one out the way. Now we're heading over to the San Francisco Giants and the St. Louis Cardinals with Logan Webb on the mound, who we talked about Logan Webb. Logan Webb is definitely going to be someone that I think you got to have a little bit of interest today. And then we got Mr. Libator, who, if you had to pick a cheap pitcher, I don't think anyone's racing to play Zach Greinke. If they're playing a cheap pitcher, I think it is Mr. Libator and trying to buy in on his talent. But it's against the Giants. And we know the Giants, they can definitely hit the long ball. They're in St. Louis as well. Let's go over you, DC. Is there any merit in playing some Giants here, or maybe even some Cardinals as like a mini stack against Logan Webb?
So the Cardinals I wouldn't go to. Despite Logan Webb just being 4th on my list, I think he's really unlikely to get blown up. I know he did it to some extent in Coors Field. I think that's about as bad as you're going to get for Logan Webb. Just, of course, it can happen to any pitcher, but he is pretty damn low on my list of pitchers that is going to like completely implode, and give up 8 runs in 2 innings, something like that. Just too good of control, ground ball pitcher, just so unlikely. So one-offs, I think, for the Cardinals are more reasonable. But a lot of the guys that you consider really haven't been hitting all that well, which I guess maybe would be a point in JT's favor for playing Logan Webb himself. But yeah, the Goldschmidt, Gorman at the top of the lineup, I think are fine against Webb if you want to go that direction. The Giants against Liberatore would make more sense if you weren't so worried about all the pinch hit guys that are going to come in this game. Lamont Wade not starting. He's coming in at some point when a righty comes in the game. Jock Peterson not starting. He's coming in as soon as the Cardinals bring in a right-handed reliever. That could be for Slater, Flores, maybe Haniger. So, yeah, it's just kind of tough to stack the Giants, at least for me, knowing that these guys are probably going to come out in the middle of the game. And listen, if it's going well for the Giants, I mean, that could be in like the 3rd or 4th inning, right? Like Gabe Kapler doesn't care. As soon as the righty's in there, he's going to make the switch. So I think I prefer going to the Giants as one-offs. Estrada, J.D. Davis usually get to play the whole game. I think those guys make some sense. I'm definitely pretty averse to playing guys that I think are going to get pinch hit for mid-game. Obviously, you're going to miss out on some big games, but I think as a general strategy, that's probably right. So, yeah, I can't really recommend the full-on Giants stack, even though Liberatore could absolutely get blown up here. Wouldn't surprise me. I did list him, like I said, as my favorite cheap pitcher. I just think he's got the most upside of all the cheap guys. So that's kind of why he made my list. But being honest, I don't actually truly expect him to throw a gem. I just think he's more capable of it, at least, than the Zach Greinke's of the world, the way I see it. So, yeah, not going to have a ton of offense in this game, and some Webb, some Liberatore, but I'll be under the field for the most part in this game.
Well, if there is one of these righties that gets a hold of Mr. Libator, I think we're contractually obligated to mention Big Platoon's favorite guy, Wilmer Flores, right? Of course, a little cheap option that can always get a hold of a lefty. And hey, these Giants, they are at least cheap. And we have some big bats on this slate where you can make a case that you are probably going to need a cheaper mini stack here on this slate to consider. So JT, I'll shift on over to you. Are the Giants intriguing here? I mean, if you get a couple home runs, that's going to be enough. Even if they put up just 2 solo shots, that would be enough there for the Giants. Are they intriguing, or are you looking at the Cardinals here against Webb?
No, Logan Webb is my number 1 pitcher, so I'm not going to be stacking against him at all. Probably won't even get to any, just hedge stacks here of the Cardinals. Probably be completely off them on this slate. I do like some one-offs for San Francisco. And so DC's right. The bullpen arms that are going to be available for St. Louis, Genesis Cabrera is going to be available. I believe he is, I'm going to take it. He's also a left-handed pitcher. But the first relief pitcher that I think you're going to see out of St. Louis is Drew Verhagen, who really has been bad for several seasons and is probably their worst arm out of the bullpen. So I didn't see the starting lineup. If they do have a lefty in there, like if Conforto is in there, that's the guy that I would maybe bump up just a little bit because, so Conforto's in there hitting 6th. We're not going to fuck with Brandon Crawford, but Conforto is someone that I think we can maybe bump up a little bit and get some exposure to, because he's going to probably see Verhagen after him, and then you'll have Genesis Cabrera after that. So, and since Verhagen's been so bad, I do like some Giants minis here.
All right, Giants minis. They'll definitely be interesting, but let's keep moving this thing along. Let's go to this next game that I definitely want to discuss. We got a nice little team total here. It's in at 10, and we got the Texas Rangers against Kyle Anderson, and we know Texas. I mean, they could hit anyone, and no one would be surprised. And then you got the Angels against Dane Dunning, and I think you could take advantage of Dane Dunning. I know if you haven't checked out Bobby's article, he discussed it a little bit over there. So if you haven't checked it out at Run Pure Sports, Bobby, he does a nice little free article for the people that you can check out 3 days a week. So be sure to read about that if you want to know more about the Dane Dunning situation. DC, 10 total here, and I don't know. What do you think the ownership is on this game? We think Boston is the number 1 stack, but I think you could make the case that Texas could definitely go overlooked against Tyler Anderson. He's more of a named guy, and I think on a 7-game slate, people aren't just shoving Texas bats in their lineups. And I mean, the Angels, I think they're going to gain some. They might be the 2nd team, maybe 3rd team on the slate. What's your kind of overall breakdown on how to handle this game? Because this seems like one of the games that could be the winner today.
Absolutely. I like both offenses quite a bit in this game. 2 pretty bad bullpens on both sides, and 2 pitchers who, like, Tyler Anderson's just been awful all year. Almost as many walks as strikeouts. Was obviously good last year for the Dodgers. Just hasn't put it together whatsoever for the Angels. And he's going up, arguably the best offense in baseball. Texas Rangers, got to give them their credit at this point. They've got their 8+ lineup out there tonight. And yeah, I mean, you can go 1 through 9 easily on this Texas team. Talking about a team, kind of comparing them to the Giants, like all 9 of these guys probably get to stay in there for the entire game, barring, something weird happening. And yeah, I think they're going to do a lot of damage. Texas is my favorite stack of the slate. Like I said, you can go, the old AP special, the reach around stack, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, I think looks good. Really any combination of this Texas team, I think is viable today. So that makes them even more fun to stack. And Anderson just doesn't have it. So I think Texas does some serious damage here. Angels are interesting too. Like I said, Dane Dunning pitching over his head recently. That's not going to last forever. And the Angels obviously have a ton of talent, especially at the very top of that lineup. But even the Angels have a couple interesting pieces down near the bottom that are cheap, right? Jared Walsh, Zach Neto, I don't think are the worst plays if you want to get in the top end pitching with obviously very expensive bats like Ohtani and Trout, Taylor Ward heating up recently too. So yeah, give me both sides of this game. Really kind of the full lineups, I think, are all reasonable plays. So this is my favorite game of the night for offense. No real interest in either pitcher here.
All right, JT, is this your favorite game like DC? Again, I think it's definitely going to be a good one. And I mean, at some point, like when you have like expensive bats, like Texas is, I think, one that just is going to naturally get overlooked compared to the Angels in Boston, right? You just can't play them all. I mean, they're just expensive. If Ohtani gains ownership, some of these other guys like Seager, they just naturally can, especially if people are paying up at pitcher today. So is this a game that you're interested in? Which side are you liking the most?
Yeah, this game seems like pretty much the best offensive target on the slate. The Rangers are maybe slightly under-owned for the spot that they're in. Boston and Tampa Bay coming in slightly higher than them. The Angels are very under-owned for the spot that they're in. Dane Dunning, his expected ERA is a full 2 runs higher than his actual ERA. He leads the slate in percentage of runners left on base. He's second in batted balls, and second lowest batted ball in play average, and fourth in the slate in batted average against. So definitely going to see some negative regression here for Dunning, and I'm going to bank on it tonight. I like these Angels. I'm going to go Angels as the top stack that I'm prioritizing on this slate.
All right. Yeah, I definitely like this one. I think I'm leaning considering Texas a little bit more than I kind of came into the show, just because, again, I really think you're going to see these expensive bats kind of lose some ownership compared to some of these other ones, like Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, Semien. I just don't see a lot of people going that way, and I really think they could be the offense that comes in below 10% on this slate. I know it's only a 7-gamer, but I really think you're going to see that today because on these shorter slates, ownership really condenses, and it's definitely going to condense on the Boston Red Sox. And we got other offenses that we haven't even discussed that I'm sure people have some interest in. Let's go to this next one. Cincinnati Reds, Kansas City Royals. We are in AP's place, Coors Field, as he likes to call it. He likes this spot a lot. Kaufman Field with K. I think it's a pretty good spot to consider, but I like it more for minis, right? I think the Royals, I don't mind them as a 5-man stack, but I'm not racing to play them. And then I know JT's not dying to go up against Greinke, but DC talked a little bit about Cincinnati, and I don't hate Cincinnati as a mini stack. DC, are you loading up on this game?
I would say loading up, but I do think you could go to either side of it. Obviously, we've seen De La Cruz just put up display those incredible physical tools. I think he's in play each and every night, including tonight. He would be my favorite play in this game overall and favorite play, obviously, on Cincinnati. Some cheap options, too. Will Benson has been hitting really well since his call-up. I kind of like him a little bit against Zach Greinke. And, yeah, Royals, don't often come through. It is one of the worst offenses of baseball. But I think Luke Weaver, like I talked about, is very, very bad, is a pitcher to generally target. And Kansas City does have some talent. Nick Pratto, decent hitter. You've obviously got Perez, Melendez up top. And then the bottom of the Royals lineup, maybe some people saw me do like a double take on here. I was looking up their 9th place hitter, who is stone minimum 2K, Darren Blanco. I've actually never heard of him. He's 30 years old and has played like 5 total games in the big leagues, all coming last year. Guess how many steals this guy has in AAA this year so far? He's played in 49 AAA games.
I'm going to go with 18.
47 steals. Yeah. Which, that's why I was like, what? When I saw the number. So Mr. Darren Blanco down at the bottom. I don't know. That's a pretty fun 2K play, right? If you know I would assume he's going to run if he's got 47 steals, and he's hit pretty well too. Obviously not a lot of power, but he's kind of interesting if you want to do the wraparound stack there. But overall, not my favorite game. I like Kansas City when it's a little warmer in general, but yeah, a couple interesting plays there for sure.
All right, JT, any interest in this game, even though it's not that warm? But Mr. Blanco, it's got my interest a little bit. If I need a punt, I'm definitely going to consider him now, I think, JT. How about you?
I think Kansas City minis are fine. I'm probably going to be off the Reds here. I don't think this doesn't strike me as a very high scoring game. So I'm going to be mostly off of this game here.
All right, DC, we've done enough shows where we know JT basically just told me to go F myself, right? He was just like, that's basically what he said.
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on a spot that
that's what he would have said if Holden was in your seat, Mangone. But, he was polite to you.
Yeah. He was at least polite. So I would
never say that to Sweet Travis. I would never say that to Sweet.
But, all right, let's keep this thing moving along. We got we can obviously go however long we want. We got to get those likes up. If you guys could subscribe to the channel, that helps us out a ton over here at Rum Beer Sports. We got 342 watching. I don't have the number up of how many are watching. JT, do you have the YouTube chat up? I'm watching through the comment section on StreamYard. But how many likes do we got?
I'm seeing 344 with only 83 likes, which is not good.
Oh, that's not good. Listen, I need to see more likes. I'm happy to pull the plug on that and put it in the Discord chat for the people. Also, if you're not in the Discord chat, apparently Steve lost his first name, so it's just Boyton in the chat. So if you're looking for him, hit the @ and type in Boyton. Don't type in Steve because I don't know why. He lost his first name or something, but we'll put the plays in the Discord chat if we have to. So get those likes up for the people. I want to give away the ping pong play of the day, the Mom's Basement. We want to hop on Air France with JT and give the Eiffel Tower play of the day. So hit those likes so we are able to do that.
Brandon McNair, before we go on, Brandon McNair says he has his rent on the Reds. And listen, I would start looking for a new place to live, my friend.
Yeah, I would definitely be doing that. He's a big WNBA guy. So if you like the WNBA, BNair is the roommate for you.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But let's keep this thing moving along. Let's go over to the Rays and the A's. And I'm actually interested to hear you guys take on this spot because the Rays are not really a team that I'm that interested in. But you could make the argument that any team against the A's can crush. Also, the Rays have been phenomenal this year. They have kind of fallen off a bit. They are also playing in a park that's not so friendly for hitters. So curious to get your guys' take on that. I don't think the A's are going to be an option that you're really that interested in against Zach Eflin, but they have been a bit pesky as of late. DC, is this a game you have any interest in? Because, hey, the Rays, they do have a pretty healthy team total today.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it all year, stacking against the A's in general, just a great way to go, obviously, with that horrible bullpen behind the horrible pitching staff. Has the A's won like 4 in a row, 5 in a row, something like that?
Swept the Brewers. So that tells you a lot about the Brewers.
I imagine it might be back to reality for the A's, I think, in this 4-game series against the Rays. So, yeah, I'm on Tampa here to some extent. I haven't seen the lineup for them. I'm not sure if it's out yet. Obviously they've got some pinch hit guys in there too, a little bit Giant-esque in terms of, some of the guys that you really want to play, guys like Josh Lowe, Luke Raley. They're also in danger of coming out in the middle of the game. So that's a little frustrating. But, yeah, Yandy Diaz, Wander Franco, Rosarena, kind of their main core guys I think are all really good plays. And the nice thing about the A's are, stacking against them, you're not dead after 3, 4, 5 innings if your guys haven't done anything, because you're always alive when the A's pitching staff has to try to finish out the game. We've seen plenty of late inning rallies from all sorts of teams against the Athletics. So, yeah, I'm in on the Rays. And usually when I go, it's especially true in this big park, if I'm going to the Rays, I kind of want the full 5-man stack because you're kind of betting against the bullpen. It's kind of hard to hit home runs there in general. And you're hoping that the bullpen just implodes, start walking dudes, everybody gets 6 at-bats, that type of thing. So I think the Rays are good. No interest really in the A's. But the offense coming around just a little bit. They do have some power now. Ryan Noda is a guy that's under the radar. I'm not saying I love him tonight specifically. Seth Brown is back and hitting it pretty well. We've seen the power from Brent Rooker, big tease guy, big platoon, Jace Peterson down there at 2,600. So not a horrible team to go to for one-offs if you're not on Eflin. Don't really love it tonight, but I won't be completely writing off this offense going forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted a cheap punt and like a Seth Brown, I wouldn't say it's the craziest idea in the world, right? But I'm definitely not really playing anyone in this game. I don't think I'm playing any Rays either. JT, could you talk me out of it? Are the Rays a team that I should be considering just because, hey, Oakland is Oakland?
Yeah, I mean, Kaprelian, it's funny. Kaprelian has stretches where he's absolutely one of the worst pitchers in baseball. And then he has stretches where he looks like he could be at least a league average pitcher. He's been on one of those stretches where he's been a little bit of both. I think some guys in Tampa aren't interesting here, but I agree with DC's comment. This A's team is a little bit different on the offensive side since they did 2 things. One, they got Seth Brown back from the injured list, and they DFA'd Jesus Aguilar and made Ryan Noda pretty much an everyday first baseman. And they both look like like the next generation of A's that are going to get traded or sign elsewhere and become really, really good. So not totally off of that offense, so to speak. I probably won't have a lot of it here. Probably will have some Rays. You just, like DC said, that bullpen, even yesterday in the win, I think the game ended up like 8-5 or 8-6. It was like 8-2 going into the last inning. So I don't mind some Rays. They are definitely going to bat in the 9th as well. So I think if Luke Raley makes the lineup, guys like Josh Lowe have been hot, Randy Rosarena. So those are the guys that I would pretty much focus a core around if I'm playing Rays tonight.
Yep, I think that's good thoughts from you. Again, not for me though. I'd rather play KC in Cincinnati. Me and JT disagree on that though today, so we'll have to see. Let's go to this next one though, because this game coming up here, it's definitely going to be one that I think is going to gain some interest from people. It's a nice little 10 total. I should check if the roof is open. I don't know that. I'll check that while DC is giving his breakdown here. We got the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Philadelphia Phillies, and that Phillies lineup, it's starting to come together, right? It's starting to hit a lot better. Trey Turner's kind of gotten out of that slump a bit, it seems like. So, I mean, I think we got to at least have some interest in this Phillies stack. And I think Arizona can't get overlooked too. We've been playing them against lefties, and hey, these righties can definitely get after. And I kind of like the lineup that Arizona put out there, right? Marte, Rivera, Carroll, Walker, Longoria, who was my play of the day the other day, and he had I think 14 DK points. Pavin Smith, Carson Kelly, Perdomo, and Jake McCarthy. I mean, it's definitely a solid lineup that I'm going to consider at low ownership. DC, you ran into a rattlesnake last week. Are we still playing the Snakes because of that? And are you interested in the Phillies?
Yeah, not because of that, but I do like the Diamondbacks here. Matt Strahm going to start this game. I think he'll probably only go 2 or maybe 3 innings. And then Phillies got they have Dylan Covey listed as the long reliever. I don't know for sure if he's going to come in the game or how long he'll pitch, but definitely a good matchup if it is him that comes in to relieve Matt Strahm, who himself is obviously a targetable player. And this Diamondbacks team's fun. They're one of those teams that can put up points in a hurry. They've got power, obviously, in the middle of the lineup, speed up and down the lineup. Jake McCarthy out of the 9-hole, running wild this year since his recall. He's a fun play tonight. And yeah, I think the Diamondbacks can certainly do a bunch of damage here. I'm going to look into Covey in this situation real quick to see what we have there.
And looking at Covey a little bit while JT gives a breakdown here on this game, because, hey, it's definitely one I think we have to consider, and I had to do the roof status. So let me do that now just to make sure. JT, while I'm doing the roof status right now, what is your take here on this game?
Yeah, I do like Arizona. I like some pieces on the Philly side as well. I think this is the second best game for offense on the slate. Arizona, I'm not going to overlook. They're probably behind the Angels. They'll probably be my second highest owned stack. So I do like the Diamondbacks quite a bit. And someone talking about Tommy Henry. Yeah, he had a nice game against these guys in Philly when they were absolutely cold. That has turned around, and I will not be playing any Tommy Henry tonight.
All right, and the roof is open. So, and that's what I thought. I thought it was open just because when I saw the total, I was like, that screams roof is open for sure. So it is open. That'll be obviously encouraging for the bats. DC, what is the stuff you found on Covey here?
Yeah, just as bad as I thought. But I did want to look up, since we don't have a big sample size of him in the majors recently, but back when he was pitching significant innings for the White Sox, extremely easy to steal against, which bodes very well for the Diamondbacks, who do have a ton of speed in that lineup.
And who are the speed guys, right? Tell the people. Maybe someone's trying to cook up a single game parlay, or maybe they're looking for the guys that could help them out in a mini stack where they don't have to get the home run and they can just get on first base and feel like they get a ton of points. So who are the speed guys for the people?
Yeah, obviously Corbin Carroll. This looks like a really, really good spot for him. He's just been incredible this year. And then Jake McCarthy, the other guy at the bottom of the lineup that you would want to target if going for that. Perdomo's got a little bit of speed as well, but Carroll and McCarthy, I think, is a pretty sneaky GPP play today.
Yeah, Corbin Carroll seems like one of those guys that, listen, like if you have like a team and you kind of run it and you notice like you got like kind of that chalky one-off in there that you don't love in the outfield, just change it to Corbin Carroll if it's like one of those expensive bats, right? Like
and just in general, players like him with power and speed, like he can do it by himself, right? He doesn't necessarily need the team to go off because he can get a walk, steal second, steal third, hit a solo home run, that type of thing, where he can do it, without his teammates having a big game as well.
Yep, agree with you on that. And the lights are definitely looking rough, so maybe we can make one last push home. I will also say back to our buddy Beanair, who's likely going to be homeless. Joey Work, who's on the bet side for us over here at Run Pure Sports, he says just donate to a charity, Beanair. So it sounds like you're going to be homeless and looking for another place to be living over the next month or so. So hopefully you find a WNBA fan to hang out with for the month of June. But yeah, let's go over to stacks, right? JT, let's go to you first. How do you rank your stacks today? Give me the top 3 you're looking at.
Sorry, I thought we were going to talk about the Seattle game.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Yes, you're right. Let's go to the Seattle game. Maybe it's because I wrote that game off, right? I typically see a 7.5 total, JT, and I'm out on that game. So maybe that's me just telling you, screw that game, JT. So what are you doing with that game, JT?
Yeah, so I like Bryce Miller, and on both sides, I'll have one-offs, particularly Teoscar Hernandez and Jorge Soler here are guys that I like as potential power guys. But for the most part, staying away here, except for Bryce Miller.
All right. Let's go over to you, DC. Any interest in these 7.5 total?
Not a ton. If you're off of Luzardo, I think the right-handed power for Seattle makes some sense as one-offs. They do have plenty of it. Julio, Teoscar, Eugenio Suarez, all guys that can really put a charge into one against, it's a lot of left-handed fastballs coming down there from Luzardo. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them take him deep. But other than that, not really. Bryce Miller, he has been really bad, I think, these last couple of starts, right? Yeah, 2 negative 10.8, negative 6.7 against Texas and New York. I think you could do worse than stacking against a guy who has been absolutely dreadful for 2 straight starts and is also a rookie for a team that nobody's going to go to, the Marlins. So, yeah, maybe I'll throw in a Marlins stack. Would just go probably, frankly, the top of the order. If I'm doing that, you don't need to get cute. If you're stacking the Marlins, you're going to be the only one on them anyway.
All right, and if you're looking for a free play, look at our guy Joey Work, giving it out for the people. Mariners money line tonight. He likes them a lot here, so maybe he thinks it's going to be a good night for Mr. Miller. And, if you want to bet the Nuggets to win tonight on the money line and combine it with something else to help give you better juice, Joey Work's got that for you. So be sure to make that free bet. And, of course, thank him on Twitter when he helps you get the job done tonight. JT, now can I go to the stacks? Unless is there another road game that I am forgetting of here on this?
No, I think now's a perfect time.
All right. So top stacks, JT. Who do you got?
The Angels, the Diamondbacks, and the Texas Rangers.
All right. Angels, Diamondbacks, and Texas Rangers for our guy JT Hayes. For me, I'm going to go with Texas is going to be on the list. I'd probably go Boston's going to be number 1. I know it's chalky, but definitely going to be one that I get a hold of. I'll go with the Angels, and I'll go with Texas. So that'll be kind of the route that I am going with today. DC, top 3 stacks.
Oh yeah, Rangers 1, the Red Sox 2, and we didn't actually talk much about them, but I'll go with the Phillies 3. I'm not a believer in Tommy Henry. So much power in that Phillies team, and I think that game out in Arizona could have a lot of offense in it.
You have definitely a lot of power and upside with those bats in Philadelphia. Also, we had our guy in chat, Luke. Luke said Arizona ownership is going to be really delicious, which, yes, that's going to be a lower owned team tonight. But I'll tell you this, Luke, he's got these spark charts, right? He's got this information that's in the Discord chat. If you haven't checked it out, it's on our site as well with some hitting data. He's got some pitching data. Sneak peek, he is Zach Greinke very, very high today. So that's something you can look at if you want to look at all those different metrics. Maybe JT's on to something with the Zach Greinke stuff. So overall, that's the slate for you guys. JT, let me give it one last look. I don't know if they're going to get it there. 120 likes. I'm disappointed. How about you?
Can't do it. Plays go in Discord.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. We got the NBA Showdown show coming up at 7:15 with our guy Big T and JSU. They'll be breaking down that slate. If you want our guy K Fallick, maybe he'll hop on there. If not, he's got his projections already in the NBA chat. So be sure to go sign up. Use that code SUMMER33 to get you 33% off. But you're not getting the plays. Sorry to hear it. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to wrap it up for me, Mangone, JT Hayes, and DC. We'll see you guys later.